All right, show two. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. Red and white, boom, 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 blue suede shoes. This is 50 Years Dead. I'm your host, Cosmic Charlie Marks. This is the second show that we're recording. The reason I'm doing this show is because I love the Grateful Dead and I want to talk about it. And if there's one or two people out there who want to listen to just thoughts about the 1973 Grateful Dead show, I'll share my thoughts, and then you could share your own thoughts with me, and we could be friends. You listen to a band so much, or you think about a thing so much, and you have this connection that you just want to get out because other people are like this. Have this obsession. It's been over 50 years. It's been almost 60 years since this band got started. This concept, 50 Years Dead, which is the name of the show, is taking a deep dive into the 1973 tour, which is not really talked about as much in Grateful Dead lore. 72 being a huge one, 74 being a pretty big one, 77 being the classic tour, 89, 90, some of the other 80 shows, 69 is also a huge year for the Dead. And there's a sprinkle of shows that are over the course of, from 1964 to 1995 that are must-listens to the Dead. But I want to get a little deeper because I want to understand this band a little bit more. I'm not an expert on the Grateful Dead. I'm not speaking on any sort of authority. I am simply a fan going through this journey of 1973 and that tour. So I'm going show by show, listen to them, and then see the patterns that come out of each show. When I think about why they chose a certain set list, why they played a certain amount of songs. So we want to think about where we're at that time in 73 with the band, with the venue, with the city that they're playing in, and sort of gauge that with the larger philosophy of what this band means and what the 73 tour meant for this band. Last I left off, in episode 1, we were talking about Wake of Flood. I thought it was an appropriate time to start with analysis of that record. The record came out in August of 73. It was recorded in August of 73, or maybe July. It was recorded in the summertime. But I thought, okay, this is the 73 tour. There's a lot of songs that they're playing off of Wake of Dead. In my thought, I thought that they were touring in support of this record, but that was not the case. They were forming the record in front of the audience, experimenting with the sounds, experimenting with the arrangements, with the audience as a part of this participation with the audience. We're going to make this record together. I also mentioned that I was wondering why they didn't play fiddle on stage when there was fiddle on Mississippi Half Step. On the record, bringing a fiddle on stage would have elevated a lot of the honky-tonk songs. Just generally, if they brought the fiddle on stage during this tour, it would have been really different. And I said this before I started listening to the September shows, which has the saxophone in it. And we'll get to the September shows, but there's a lot of horns in the September shows that I have not heard on a Grateful Dead live series. At least with my experience with Dick picks, or Dave's picks. I know there was a saxophone in, I think I want to say Eyes in maybe the 80s or 90s. I forget which record that is off of, which show. So the way I'm doing this is I am listening all the way through. I'm up to September right now, but I'm sort of backtracking based off of my notes from each show. So the podcast is me going back to those notes, but also listening to later on in the year. So again, I'm up to September, but let's talk about the next two shows. 2/7 St. Paul, Minnesota, and 2/19 Chicago, Illinois.
Wake of the flood, lapping water. 49.
2/17, the St. Paul show. It seems like there were equipment problems. It seems like the band seemed a little off for a couple songs, whether that was the equipment problems or otherwise. I couldn't really. There were so many great moments and little pockets of this show, but so many other glitches where I found they weren't exactly in step with each other. I guess they seemed a little off key for a couple of the songs. Maybe that is because of the equipment problems, or maybe it's just like we're not into it. Imagine going through your life and every single thing that you do is recorded and analyzed like 50 years down the line. Not knowing at the time. It's not like these guys were like, oh, let's record this and post it on TikTok and like see what's going on. They had soundboard recordings because the audience recorded it. And they thought like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just record our stuff. Not knowing like it was going to record every single mistake. Or maybe they did and they just knew that they were going to find great moments in the chaos. And the part of this band is like finding the moments in the chaos. And you have to get through some chaotic moments to get there. Such an allegory for life, right? So I'm on this Grateful Dead journey, and I'm learning new things as I go along. One of the things was Wave That Flag, which I saw the title Wave That Flag, and I thought it was a typo, or just like that's what the recordist deemed it. I didn't realize it was sort of a separate song than U.S. Blues. I thought it was U.S. Blues. And then you listen to it and you're like, oh wait, they don't say the word U.S. Blues in it. It was performed by the Grateful Dead as Wave That Flag in early 73, and the lyrics focused directly on patriotic themes and had several references to U.S. currency. By the time Wake of the Flood came out later, the song evolved with new lyrics and retitled U.S. Blues. It didn't make that record. They first played it on February 9th, which when I listened to it on the 9th, when I listened to the 2/9 show, I just thought it was a typo, Wave That Flag. But then I heard it again here in 2/17 and realized that was the name of the track, was Wave That Flag. It's an interesting way the Grateful Dead approach songs. It reminds me of, I mean, you don't see this very often. I remember like the recordings of Radiohead's performance at Bonnaroo, and they played a song called Videotape. It was way upbeat. The audience never heard it before. But they tried it once, and the next time you heard it was on the record, and it was a lot slower song. This connection with the audience is basically, I'm really feeling it. I'm really feeling the majestic nature of the Grateful Dead by going show for show. And this Wave That Flag is another layer. And I think that's why we keep on going back to the Grateful Dead as the greatest rock and roll band of all time, is because the more you study this band, the more layers get unpeeled. That's why I equate it to the career of Miles Davis or the works of Beethoven, where you're putting yourself in the mind of the artist and wondering why you feel a certain way about listening to them, and why their music, and knowing what their lives were like. Why in their music do you have this personal connection? There was these signs back during the day that people would bring that said, Jerry is God, or Garcia is God, which I understand you would make that statement, but what makes the Grateful Dead so interesting and why we connect with this band so much is not because they are gods, but because they were men. And they were nodding to us as the audience, and we were nodding back. We're on the same wave as them, the same cosmic wave. You know, you think about like Taylor Swift, and that's a hugely popular band or artist that people have this connection with, and it's because she's so personal with her music. The authenticity of her music is why she has the fans she has. Songs are good. They love the songs. But they feel her emotion and then feel that connection, and it allows them to express themselves through her. And drawing the parallels between Grateful Dead Beethoven and Taylor Swift may seem odd, but where I'm trying to get is that their human qualities are the reason why we love them so much, not their God qualities. I think Wave That Flag stuck out to me on this show because of the true bluesiness this version has. It reminds me of, it seems like a song that Pigpen would have wrote or sung at least. This version feels gritty, it feels bluesy. It feels bluesier and heavier than US blues eventually gets. I wonder what this... And it makes sense because Pigpen's only a year or two removed at this point. Jerry's sort of channeling Pigpen in this song. He's sort of continuing Pigpen's legacy. That's what I love about this song. And this version of it is really stand out. So the rest of the set list, set 1 opens with The Promised Land, goes to He's Gone, Looks Like Rain, Box of Rain, Wave That Flag, Mexicali, Bird Song, Beat It All Down the Line, Loose Lucy, Me and Bobby McGee, Stella Blue, El Paso, They Love Each Other, and it ends with Playing in the Band. I mean, if we're thinking about St. Paul, Minnesota, and what this set list means, this is a Heartland set list. This is like the Dead saying to St. Paul, hey, sit down, have your Thanksgiving dinner, your nightly Thanksgiving dinner, because you're in Minnesota. And that's why I imagine you just eat Thanksgiving all the time. Settle in, be comfortable. And that sets the tone with a very early long jam in He's Gone. He's Gone is like 15 minutes long. It's incredible, and it's the second song. It's that song for St. Paul that can, imagine like a belly full of mashed potatoes just digesting and listening to this song. Second set gets a little bigger, with Trucking right out of the gate into Road Jimmy, Big River, You Ain't Woman Enough, Here Comes Sunshine to China Cot to I Know You Rider, Around and Around, Not Fight Away, Going Down the Road Feeling Bad, into Not Fade Away, and then one more Saturday Night. The second set is a ripper. It is great. Here Comes Sunshine to China Rider. Incredible transition. One of the best transitions you'll hear in a Grateful Dead show.
Down before, you just don't have to go no more. No more. Here comes sunshine. Here comes sunshine.
They end with Casey Jones. Casey Jones is an easy rocker. They end with Casey Jones. Casey Jones is an easy rocker for that Midwest crowd to go home with. This set list seems like a nice country pie. A nice big old bowl of mashed potatoes. The good kind, because this is the Midwest. So we're putting a lot of butter in there. The stuffing, it's filling. Well, no, filling is just a Jersey thing. I'm not sure, but the stuffing is, you chug that down with some red wine, make a little mashed potato sandwich with a good old roll, nice soft country roll. That's what this concert is like. Yeah, there were parts of this show that they had some equipment problems. Everyone seemed off a little bit, but overall, some real barn burners in here. All right, so the next show is 2/19/73. This is at the International Amphitheater in Chicago. Let's talk about Chicago a little bit. In 1973, the civil rights, racial tensions, the effects of the civil rights movement were really felt in Chicago. City had a history of racial segregation, and in the late 60s and 70s, there's a lot of tensions between the communities, as well as between the residents and the police. Sort of sounds familiar. The 68 riots, they're about 5 years removed from that, but still in the back of everybody's head. The 70s began a period of economic transition in Chicago. There was a decline in manufacturing jobs in the city, which I think is probably what was happening in a lot of cities at the time. There were, looking at the politics, there was this mayor, John Daly, who was there from 55 to 76. This guy's been there for a while. He was involved. He had a lot of criticisms against him for civil rights issues, political corruption, which sort of seems like everywhere in the 70s. I just imagine the 70s is just like, oh boy, this is a heavy time. Chicago still was a significant cultural hub in 73. The music was vibrant, blues being especially influential, and crime. There was a lot of crime in Chicago at the time. So the reason I bring this up is because we have to paint the picture of what this crowd was like and why the Grateful Dead perhaps selected the songs and were feeling a certain mood when playing the songs. This is a crowd that was on edge. You imagine a crowd just sort of needing this release and feeling this tension. The first set apparently was not recorded, or there were mistakes, but the second set is really, really all caps ripping. They open with an excellent He's Gone into Truckin' into the other one, which at this point in the tour for me, and I know I'm only on the fourth show here, but this is the best run of the tour so far. It's mind melting, as they say in Deadhead land. And you think about the crowd experiencing this run of songs with lyrics about hard lives on the move, lives feeling isolated, lives going through change and identity crises. That second set, well, you even look at the first set. Promised Land, Box of Rain, Brown Eye Women, El Paso. All sort of upbeat sounding songs, but with like much deeper connotations to them. But when I'm talking about a set that reflects the audience, he's gone into Truckin', to Other One, to Eyes, China Doll, Sugar Magnolia, and Casey Jones. If you dissect that playlist of heartbreak and identity, there's a big theme going on here. There's also hope with Eyes. But again, you see Eyes going into China Doll, which is Jerry's way of saying, yes, there's hope. Yes, there are going to be good days. But right around the corner, you're going to run into some deep, dark times. They end with Casey Jones, and it's super fast, and I'm just like wondering if they were also on cocaine at this time. It was 73. Did they have cocaine? I'm not sure. They had to have cocaine, right? I mean, they're singing about cocaine. The good Coke, because that's like 70s Coke. And the Coca-Cola, too, was good back then, because they put little Coke in there, too. You get a little zip to your Coke. Damn, the 70s. What was that like? I mean, we're in a weird time now. It's all sort of blending together. Last 20 years, 23 years, sort of all feel the same. They feel the same, from 2001 to about 2016, and then 2016 to current day, it's like we're in our own little decade now. That should be the decade, right? 2016 to 2023, because that was the time when we saw a lot of change in this country and a lot of just weird stuff going on. Not like we didn't before, but you look at the craziness of the 60s and 70s, and crime was worse back then than it is now, but it feels heavier now. And that's why this band's cool, is because you and the time of this tour that we're listening to 50 years later, there's a lot of parallels between the early 70s and current day. We've changed with cities in somewhat of a decline, but still sort of hanging on. So our minds now are similar to what the minds were back then in terms of despair. And instead of cocaine, like they had there, we have cell phones that are driving our brain nerves into delicious St. Paul style mashed potatoes. So we look at this band, you and I, as Deadheads. We listen to this band and we have the connections that our forefather Deadheads had as well. Everything goes in cycles, right? So good run. I'm gonna put 219 as a great run, not an overall great show. I'm gonna say there were some good moments to the 217 show, not a excellent show overall, at least based off the recording. Next week's episode, we're gonna go into 221, 222, and 226. So take a listen to those shows as well. See if you have any thoughts. See if we're in alignment of that. I know some great dark stars are approaching, which I loved. So take a listen for those. And take a listen to how this band is continuing the 73 tour throughout these next couple days in February. All right. So we will talk next time. For now, enjoy the ride. Enjoy these shows. And I'll see you later.